Dinosaur, written by Stephen Llewelyn and performed by Chris Barrie. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the notification bell to keep up to date with the latest installments.
Huddled on the bridge, Douglas and Singh were beginning to piece together what had caused the recent malfunctions. "So, we've been hacked," stated Douglas. Singh nodded. With an elbow on the workstation, he held his brow in frustration. Whoever did this has inserted a relatively simple little program into the protocols controlling main drive and navigation. As you know, Captain, during normal spaceflight, once we're up to velocity, the engines only cut in sporadically, and then only when course corrections are necessary. Navigation then fires the engines, making adjustments to trajectory with small controlled bursts. This new program, possibly because of its simplicity, propagated through the entire operating system in moments, rewriting our original nav procedures. It seems to work by cutting power at opportune moments. Our main engines are clustered in a diamond formation so that directional manipulation left and right is made fairly simple, with the upper and lower points of the diamond providing attitude control up and down, straightforward. Unfortunately, all this software needs to do to send us spiraling out of control is hijack navigation every time a course correction is required. The new program simply cuts one of the engines altogether. A split second is all it needs for the ship to be sent off course. Naturally, the more the system tries to regulate itself, the more protracted the error becomes until, within just a few seconds, a lifetime in computing terms and taking into account speeds of 50,000 kilometers per hour, the ship is in a flat spin. By the time I'd cut power to the engines, the Earth's gravity, already part of the equation, took us over completely. "So, we're heading straight for the planet," said Douglas, resigned. "Yes, sir," replied Singh, rubbing his eyes exhaustedly. His night shift should have ended 5 hours ago, but there had been no one else to man the bridge. "Anything we can do?" he asked. "We need to get that program out of the system," Singh replied simply. "Can you do that?" "Maybe, with Hero's help, a full engineering team, and a few months. The program has corrupted our operating system in 1,000 tiny ways and is buried amongst millions of lines of code." He banged his fist on the console angrily. "I'm sorry, Captain. The only other solution I can think of is not good." "It's okay, Sandy." Douglas placed a reassuring hand on the pilot's shoulder. "What do you have in mind?" "We take her back to factory settings, but we'll lose all of the tweaks and improvements we've come to rely on over the last few years, sir." Singh turned his seat to face the older man. "This is not the same bird that came out of space, Doc. I doubt even Hero would know exactly how many modifications we've made," he finished glumly. Douglas was almost afraid to ask, "When you say rely on, might these tweaks be things we need to land a damaged ship?" "Possibly. Even probably. There's hardly a system we haven't altered or augmented. It's like a personal computer, sir. They all start out the same from the factory, but everyone's ends up completely unique in terms of software and system architecture. If you put even someone as brilliant as Chief Nasaki in one of the other 4 Mars vessels, he would certainly be a useful man to have around, but it would take him 12 months or more before he'd really have her measure." He ran his fingers through his hair in agitation. "And on top of that, the ship is damaged. Moreover, she's aerodynamically damaged, and we've got to land on a planet with no airfields, no satellite navigation, and no ground support." "If we regained basic control, we could park in orbit," suggested Douglas, trying the idea out as he spoke. "We have reasonable food stocks for several weeks. We wouldn't have unlimited time, but—" He lapsed into thought. "We also have seed stocks enough to feed thousands of people for years, though, sir," said Singh. "They were meant for the hydroponics pod on Mars, but the longer we leave it to plant them, the longer we go hungry. And if we miss the season down there on the planet, we could find ourselves in a lot of trouble." "We could take a shuttle on a foraging mission and hunt meat, if nothing else," said Douglas. "That would be brave, but extremely dangerous, Captain," replied Singh. Forgetting what's waiting down there for us for a minute, we don't even know how our shuttle's jet engines will perform in the atmosphere of the Cretaceous. If the oxygen mix is off, it could make all the difference. But by that standard, wouldn't it be even more dangerous to take the New World down? Asked Douglas. Singh shook his head gently from side to side, mulling it over. Maybe, he said. But the New World relies on rocket propulsion primarily. Also, she has a lot more power, a lot more. She's made for hovering, while picking up or dropping off a 200,000-ton payload. Added to that, we have resources on this ship, not to mention expertise that a shuttle wouldn't have. So you're saying we're better off going for it and not messing about with small-scale trials? Asked the captain, surprised. Possibly, sir. I know that sounds crazy at first, but I'm not sure a trial with a shuttle would tell us much. The scale, even the technology and fuel sources are different. As you know, the New World can draw on solid fuel for 100% output and continuous burn requirements, whilst using hypergolic fuel for the control we're going to need to lower her safely and land without ending up in smoking ruins. Even the electronically controlled air brakes and flaps which allow her to fly in atmosphere generate enormous stopping power. I don't doubt we'd have a good chance of putting down in the shuttle if the oxygen mix in the atmosphere is similar to the world we left last week. But this ship would have to go down anyway, so there doesn't seem much to gain. I believe the New World can do it, sir. I just wish we could use the systems we have now instead of factory settings which were merely... He searched for the word. Adequate. He finished distastefully. As with the chief engineer, the pilot had poured a lot of himself into the ship they loved. The captain and pilot subsided into a thoughtful silence. When the comm binged, it made them jump. Bridge, Singh answered. Sandeep, this is engineering, said Hero's voice. I'm about to reinstall gravity control. That was quick, remarked Douglas. Well done, Chief. Well, we're still in a mess down here, sir, but it's something, replied the engineer. We need to warn the crew and passengers that the gravity is about to come back online, but also that it may go off and on for a little while. Do you remember the last time we changed the coils, Captain? The reinitialization took time to balance out across the ship. Everyone will need to stay put for a couple of minutes minimum while she sorts herself out. Sir, can you make the announcement from the bridge? Of course, Hero. I'm right on it, said Douglas. I'm ready to go down here, replied the engineer's voice over the comm. But I'll wait for your announcement. Please state that the gravity will come back online 30 seconds after your message. That should give everyone time to get back to a secure position on the deck, preferably seated. There may be dizziness and nausea issues. Very good, Chief. Making the call. Douglas, out. The captain's voice was heard in every part of the ship and pod, giving the crew and passengers half a minute to get their feet back on the deck or to otherwise brace themselves. Douglas and Singh pushed themselves into their seats, awaiting the heaviness. Then it came, stomach-lurching, and was gone again. After a few more seconds it returned, this time to stay. The bridge officers waited out the mandatory 2 minutes ordered by the chief, just to be sure, before getting up. Luxuriating in the simple act of walking around the bridge instead of hurling himself across it, Douglas said, Well, it's a start. Hero worked in the gravity control nexus near the front of the aft section of the ship, just behind the rear pod docking clamps. The Sarge, on full alert, watched over the engineer as he stuck his head into all sorts of hatches and compartments. The chief had been banging at a jammed valve for several seconds before popping his head out to comment. I ordered Lieutenant Lloyd to change this a fortnight ago. Hopeless. He told me, shh. The Sarge held up his hand for silence, and then they both heard it. A groaning sound. Hero traced the moaning to a smallish compartment. Looking around to check with the Sarge, he mimed that he was about to open it. Jackson nodded, pointing his stun rifle at the door. Hero pulled the hatch quickly, throwing himself out of the way as Lloyd's head lolled out. The prison-breaking engineer had been stuffed unceremoniously into an access tube, just about managing to turn himself over before being sick everywhere. There was a nasty gash across the side and top of his head. In his condition, he clearly offered no threat, so the Sarge lowered his weapon slightly, stepping forwards. As he did so, another compartment door flew open with a force clearly intended to stun him, and it would have, were it not for Jackson's lightning reflexes. He threw himself clear as the door's arc reached its zenith. A slight figure, completely clad in black and wearing a ski mask, jumped out of the access tube, aiming a kick at Jackson's head before he regained his posture. The force of the kick would surely have broken his neck had he not managed to roll with it. As it was, he fell back towards the exit, dropping his weapon as he fought for balance. He shook his head once to clear it, and in lightning retaliation, jumped up to kick full force at the masked figure, connecting with his attacker's midriff to the left lower rib cage. He expected his assailant to fly across the room winded, possibly with a couple of broken ribs. But they merely crumpled. All the energy sapped from the blow, the masked figure continued their backwards roll in a single fluid movement. Recovering with extraordinary grace and dexterity, they crouched and spun, taking the Sarge's legs from under him. Using the angular momentum of this savage arc, the Sarge's adversary seemed to pirouette up into the air, fairly dancing over the prone soldier to run away down the corridor.
"What the—"
The Sarge hit his comm, shouting,
"All security staff, intruder alert, aft gravity control nexus. Figure in black wearing a ski mask. Do not engage hand-to-hand. Repeat, do not engage hand-to-hand. Shoot on sight."
Jumping to his feet, he ran to the door, rifle in hand, but the corridor was already empty.
"Turkish delight,"
he spat, shaken. Hero opened a channel to sickbay. "Chief, to Dr. Flanagan." "Go ahead, Hero," the doctor's voice responded. "Dave, we found Lieutenant Lloyd, but he's injured. A head trauma. Please attend the aft gravity control nexus. I don't want to move him in case it causes more harm, but please, come quickly. I really need him to stop throwing up on the gravity balancing controls." Douglas stood at the head of the table in the bridge meeting room, leaning on his knuckles and looking seriously at his fellow counselors and senior staff.
"We're 6 hours from Earth," he said. "The ship's operating system has been compromised, and we're coming in hot. Sandeep has come up with a, shall we say, unpalatable but necessary plan to prevent us from smashing into the planet at 50,000 kph.
He sat, gesturing for Singh to elucidate his plan, which involved resetting the whole of the ship's navigational array and operating system back to factory standard.
"Of course,"
the pilot concluded after a brief explanation,
"if that doesn't work, re-entry will kill us. Or should I say entry, as we won't have left for 99.2 million years.
Douglas cleared his throat and gave him a look to stay on topic.
"However, if we reinitialize successfully,"
the pilot continued nervously,
"we should be able to limp down as long as the atmospheric flight controls can compensate for the damage we sustained in the initial bomb blast. If not, the ship might break up, which will kill us. But if we do manage to land, and assuming that the substrate we land on is stable enough to support the ship, we should be all right. If it's not, the ship might break in half, which might kill us."
"Good pep talk, Sandy," Baines commented dryly as he finished. "I can't wait to get started. What do you think, Hero? Is this the only way? As I understand it, we'll lose all our custom mods." Hero nodded once. "It's certainly our only option within the time we have left. We must bear in mind that we have to power down, reinitialize the whole ship, get to grips with the old system, and get control back before entering atmosphere. I can't see any way of doing that quicker than Sandeep's plan." The engineer wore a sullen expression. "We'll be lucky if we're even done in time. I just hope we're not reaching for systems we've come to rely on but won't have any more." He looked to Douglas. "Captain, if we're going to make this work, we must move now. Even if everything goes our way, it will feel like someone's stolen half the spanners from our toolbox, and the chances are, when we reach Earth, we'll be approaching at well over the recommended velocity."
"So we won't be able to maintain orbit?"
asked Douglas. Sir, we'll be lucky if we are even down to re-entry speed by the time we get there. There almost certainly won't be time to stop.
But I packed my camera,
said Baines. Mother Sarah smiled at the commander.
You're always trying to keep our spirits up, aren't you, Jill? She said.
But we really need to get this ship down, Satnam Patel stated acerbically. Hero, is there anything at all my team can do to help? Hero thought for a moment, but it was Singh who supplied an answer.
We could use our entire engineering and science staff as spotters at key locations, he said animatedly. I should be able to talk them through the basic re-initialization process for each station. That might give Hero and Giorgio time to focus on the big problems.
Hero stood. That's a good idea. If nothing else, it will save traveling time around the ship. At 550 meters, she's a big girl. We can't be everywhere at once. If Sandeep can organize that, I really do need to make a start, Captain.
Dismissed, Lieutenant.
He stood too, offering his hand to the engineer.
And good luck to us all.
Hero shook it and left the room at a jog. The Sarge, who was waiting by the door, silently fell in behind him. Douglas turned back to the remaining crew and councillors.
I know this sounds crazy, but we simply haven't got time to discuss the murderer we have on the loose. Just make sure that we all take extra care. Everyone not involved with the effort to reinitialize the ship should lock themselves in their quarters until further notice. No one should go anywhere alone.
He looked at Sarah and Satnam.
You are, of course, both welcome to stay on the bridge for the duration of the emergency.
Sarah nodded.
Thank you, James.
Patel shook his head. I will work with Lieutenant Singh and see what I can do to help around the ship.
Very good, said Douglas.
Just before we split up,
asked Sarah,
what is the condition of Mr. Lloyd?
Baines answered. A cracked head again, and another concussion. Doc Flanagan expects a full recovery, but as ever, we've got to tie up a security officer to keep watch over him at a time when we need them all so badly. She shook her head, clearly irritated. However, on the plus side, several members of the pod crew have volunteered to act as special security officers. Many of them are ex-military and can bring useful skills to bear, but let's face it, we need everyone we've got, whether they are up to it or not.
Has Mr. Lloyd spoken?
Asked Sarah again. No, replied Baines. We still don't know where we stand for sure with the man. He could be up to his armpits in this, or he may actually be an innocent patsy. Part of me hopes he's one of our men, just so we can maroon him somewhere, but who knows? She finished with a sigh.
If we are going in hot, as we've heard, said Sam Burton, shouldn't we aim for the ocean?
If we don't get the velocity in check, it won't matter, Singh answered. Even hitting the sea will be like slamming into concrete. Concrete full of monsters.
No curious dolphins or dewy-eyed seals, then?
Ask Tim, replied the pilot.
And on that note, said Douglas, we'd better all be about our business. Dr. Flanagan ran himself and his medical team ragged. Along with Dr. Heidi Schultz and Nurse Justin Smith, he travelled the whole ship handing out a cocktail of pick-me-up drugs to the engineers, scientists and security personnel drafted in to help with the crisis. Everyone was dead on their feet, and it occurred to Flanagan that he would pretty soon have to dose himself, because when they reached Earth, he could not even finish the thought. Instead, he tried to focus his tired mind on the man in front of him.
When was the last time you slept?
He asked.
22 hours,
the security operative replied.
We'll just take one of these now and another when we reach Earth.
He gave the man 2 pills, watching him swallow the first.
We're all going to need to be wide awake for that kickoff.
Hero burst into engineering with the Sarge at his back and ran straight into Giorgio Bacchini. The two stepped back, staring intently at one another. After a long moment, both men spoke at once. Hero bowed slightly, saying,
You first, please.
Giorgio thought for a moment before looking sideways at the chief. Tiredly, he asked,
Was it you? Did you kill Mario?
Hero shook his head and stepped closer to the younger man. No, Giorgio, no, he said, clasping both of Bacini's arms. I swear I would never do anything to harm any of my friends on this ship, and I would never harm the New World on purpose. Mario knew that. I hope you can believe it too. Giorgio moved quickly. Grabbing the chief in a bear hug, he squeezed tight with his head on Hiro's shoulder.
I'm sorry, he cried softly. I'm sorry.
Hiro recovered swiftly, also throwing his arms around his friend. There's nothing to be sorry for. I understand how it looked. Hiro broke the embrace. But now we've got to save everyone. Do you know what's happening? Giorgio nodded.
We're pointed towards Earth at messy death speed.
The Japanese engineer grinned at his Italian friend. Outlining Singh's plan, he also explained that the killer had shown but not revealed themselves, and Lloyd was unconscious again but still not in the clear. So it's down to us to orchestrate this miracle. He looked behind him to the Sarge. And the Sarge will make sure we live long enough to carry it out. Or at least, he added sardonically, until we go splat. Bacini clasped his friend's hand in his right and took the Sarge's hand in his left.
Let's do it,
he said. Roughly 4 hours remained before the New World careered into the Old World with extreme prejudice. Hank Jr. made his way along a corridor in the residential area of the pod as stealthily as possible. He had failed to catch up with Rose earlier in the day and was determined to find her now, before the clock ran down entirely. Even so, he was nervous. The captain had recently ordered everyone to remain in their quarters, and Hank knew it. Rounding a corner, he saw a dark man and a blonde woman at the far end of another, shorter corridor. He stepped back, glancing around sneakily to see what was going on. His teenaged hormones could not fail to notice that the female was young and absolutely stunning, although his teenaged eyes naturally registered an absolutely stunning older woman who must be at least mid-20s. Hank watched as she gave the man something small. He put whatever it was to his mouth and swallowed, watching her stride away. Luckily for Bernstein Jr., the man took a moment to admire the view and continued facing away from him, whilst he looked for an escape or runaround. Damn, Hank thought. He was beginning to panic when he noticed a janitor's cupboard just down the hall back the way he had come. Stepping like a cartoon burglar in his attempt to move silently, he arrived at the door and tried the controls, panic rising again. The door opened. Relief flooding through him, he threw himself inside, just as the man turned the corner. The door closed, lights coming to life automatically. As he glanced around, something jarred, at odds with the otherwise orderly nature of the storage area. He was drawn, almost against his will, to a bag stuffed behind one of the shelves. Leaning forward, he pulled it out. Unable to resist, he opened it. Inside the bag were a few hand tools of the sort an engineer might attach to his belt whilst on duty. There was also a data clip, and something which made the young man's eyes widen in alarm.
Dinosaur, written by Stephen Llewelyn and performed by Chris Barrie. New installments uploaded each week. Subscribe for more. Visit the link in the description for free New World companion stories, available for download as ebooks.